He was just an 11-year-old sketching on his tablet on his way home. But one cop saw a target. He had no idea the call that boy was about to make would ignite a firestorm. The afternoon sun beat down on Wilmington, California, turning the pavement into a shimmering griddle. It was the kind of oppressive heat that frayed tempers. 11-year-old Leo Statham was oblivious, lost in his own world just 2 blocks from home. He traced a dragon's wing on his digital tablet, a half-finished can of iced tea sweating in his other hand. He wasn't running, wasn't shouting. He was just a boy walking home from a summer art program. That's when a black and white cruiser slid to a stop beside him. The officer behind the wheel, Ray Dunning, lowered his sunglasses. His face was a mask of bored authority. "You lost, kid?" he called out, his tone dripping with condescension. Leo looked up, blinking against the glare. "No, sir. My house is right down there," he said, pointing politely. "ID?" Dunning demanded, not asked. "I'm 11, Leo replied, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. "I don't have an ID." The car door swung open with a groan. Dunning heaved himself out, his boots striking the asphalt with heavy finality. "Parents know where you are. They're at work. My aunt is home. I just left our class. Don't get smart with me." Dunning snapped, his hand shooting out and clamping down on Leo's thin wrist. The tablet clattered to the sidewalk, its screen cracking. The iced tea can fell, rolling into the gutter with a hollow rattle. Leo froze, his heart hammering against his ribs. "I didn't do anything," he whispered, trying to wrench his arm free. "Please let go." Dunning twisted the boy's arm behind his back. "Got a smart mouth for a little punk," he grunted, and then came the sound. Not a crack, but a sickening, muffled pop like a thick, dry branch being snapped over a knee. Leo screamed, a raw, piercing cry of agony as he collapsed, cradling his now unnaturally bent arm. Dunning stood over him, breathing hard. "That's what happens when you don't show respect," he snarled. But as he reached for his cuffs, he failed to notice the small, trembling fingers of Leo's uninjured hand. Just as his aunt had taught him, Leo had already pressed and held the side button on his phone. A silent, emergency call that connected instantly to one person. Isabel Izzy Reyes, ex-MI6 field agent, security specialist, and the only person Jason Statham trusted with his nephew's life. Izzy heard everything. The cop's aggression, Leo's pleas, and the horrifying pop. She didn't say a word. She just grabbed her keys, threw on a gray tactical jacket, and sprinted her car. "You picked the wrong kid," she whispered into the silence. Wilmington General's ER was a symphony of controlled chaos, but it paused when paramedics wheeled an alone 11-year-old boy, his arm clearly broken, with a one-word explanation, "Police." "Who brought him in?" the charge nurse demanded. "Didn't say," an EMT replied, shaking his head. "Just dropped him at the curb and peeled out." The medical team moved fast, but Leo wouldn't stop crying, repeating the same phrase over and over. "I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything." A nurse noticed the phone clutched in his good hand. The screen was still lit, showing an active call, and Izzy. Duration, 32 minutes and counting. 30 miles away, Izzy's modified Dodge Challenger devoured the freeway. Every sound from the call was seared into her memory. The pop, the scream. Her phone buzzed. The screen read, "Jason Statham." "I'm on my way," she answered, her voice dangerously calm. "Report," he growled from across the Atlantic, his voice like gravel and steel. He broke his arm. A dead silence hung on the line. Then a low, controlled rumble. "The officer? Gone. Dumped him and ran." "He doesn't get to disappear, is he?" Jason said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "You find him. You hold him. I'll handle the rest." "He's not going anywhere," she promised, and hung up. When Izzy stormed into the hospital, she didn't stop at reception. "Leo Statham, 11, broken arm. I'm his emergency contact. Room number. Now." The nurse, seeing the cold fire in her eyes, simply pointed. "Room 6. She pushed the door open and her breath caught. Leo looked impossibly small in the large hospital bed, his arm in a temporary splint, his face streaked with tears. His eyes met hers, and a fresh wave of sobs shook his small frame. Izzy was on her knees beside him in an instant, her arms gently enveloping him. "I'm here, Leo. I got you." Leo clung to her, his voice muffled by her jacket. I told him who my uncle was." Izzy went rigid. "You told him?" "I said my name was Leo Statham," he cried. He laughed at me. A chilling clarity settled over Izzy. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a cop losing his temper. It was deliberate. It was personal. She gently took Leo's phone, stopped the emergency recording, and saved the file. She played it for the two nurses in the room. The air filled with Leo's terrified voice, Dunning's cruel taunts, and that sickening pop. One nurse gasped, covering her mouth. The other whispered, "Oh my God. Do you know the officer's name?" she asked. Izzy's eyes were like chips of ice. "I'm about to." Outside Leo's room, Izzy made a call to a contact, Sergeant Eva Rostova of LAPD Internal Affairs. "Eva, it's Izzy. I need a name. Wilmington officer assaulted a minor. I have the entire incident on audio. Send me what you have." Rostova replied without hesitation. "You'll have a name in 10. Less than 10 minutes later, a full dossier appeared on Izzy's phone. Officer Ray Dunning, badge number, patrol unit, and a history of 3 prior excessive force complaints, all dismissed. His file also noted his predictable off-duty habits. Every Sunday evening, he ate at a greasy spoon called the griddle. By the time Leo was sedated and resting, Izzy was already on the move. The griddle was exactly as described, a grimy diner humming under fluorescent lights. Dunning sat in a corner booth, laughing loudly at something on his phone. Izzy walked in, the bell over the door jingling softly. She approached his table and stood there silent. "Can I help you?" he grumbled, looking up with annoyance. Izzy didn't answer. She simply placed her phone on the sticky tabletop and pressed play. Leo's voice, small and pleading, filled the diner. "Please stop, that hurts." "I didn't do anything." Then came the pop. The diner fell silent. Spoons stopped midway to mouths. The cook peeked out from the kitchen. Dunning's smirk evaporated. His face turned ashen. "Where did you get that?" he hissed. "You know who that boy is?" Izzy asked, her voice low and steady. "Some little punk." He resisted. "His name is Leo Statham," Izzy said, "and I'm Isabel Reyes." His eyes widened with a flicker of recognition, but she didn't give him time to process. She slid a napkin across the table. On it, she'd written, "Room 6, Wilmington General. 11 years old, broken arm. Audio. Witnesses. Internal Affairs. My employer will be here by morning," she said, her voice barely a whisper, but carrying the weight of a guillotine. "By the time he lands, you'll be lucky to keep your pension." She turned and walked out. Before she reached her car, she had already uploaded the audio file to a secure whistleblower platform. She sent the link to 3 national news reporters and 5 activist groups. Her phone buzzed. It was Rostova. A waitress from the griddle just called 911. Said a woman just confronted Dunning and played a recording of a kid screaming. Izzy smiled grimly. "Let's just say I lit a match." "You're not done, are you?" Rostova asked. Looking at the city lights blurring past, Izzy replied, "I haven't even started." Within hours, #JusticeForLeo was trending. The wildfire had begun. By sunrise, the city was buzzing. The audio was everywhere, local news, social media, morning talk shows. When a victim was confirmed as Jason Statham's nephew, the story exploded. This wasn't just another statistic. This had a famous name attached. News vans were already camped outside Dunning's suburban home. Inside the Wilmington PD, the atmosphere was toxic. No one defended Dunning, but no one condemned him either. It was a wall of institutional silence. Izzy walked into the precinct lobby at 11 a.m. She wasn't wearing a tactical jacket now. She was in a sharply tailored charcoal blazer and boots. She slapped a thick folder onto the front desk. "I need to see your commanding officer." 10 minutes later, she was staring across a desk at Captain Miller, a man with tired eyes and the weary posture of someone constantly navigating political minefields. "Ms. Reyes," he began, "Officer Dunning has been placed on administrative leave." "Leave," Izzy repeated, her voice dangerously soft. He shattered a child's arm and left him on the sidewalk like garbage. He didn't file a report. He ran. She pushed another folder across the desk. These are his 3 prior complaints, all buried by your department. This isn't about one bad cop, Captain. It's about a system that protects them. She stood up. You have until noon tomorrow to announce his termination. Publicly. Or we go live with everything. By 3:47 p.m., a black, armored Escalade pulled up to the precinct. The back door opened, and Jason Statham emerged. Dressed in a dark suit, his face was an unreadable mask of cold fury. He didn't speak to the press. He walked up the steps, Izzy at his side, and took the microphone set up by his legal team. The crowd hushed. A man who swore an oath put his hands on my nephew. He began, his voice a low, gravelly rumble that carried over the crowd. He broke a child's arm because he could, because he thought no one was watching. He scanned the faces, then stared directly into the main news camera. To this department, you have one chance to fix this. Just one. After that, we fix it for you. That evening, a tip came from Rostova. Dunning was packing a duffel bag. A black Charger was waiting for him. He was making a run for it. Izzy and Jason were parked in the shadows near Dunning's house. As Dunning stepped out of his garage, Izzy slipped out of their car. He didn't see her until he closed his trunk. When he turned, she was just there. I wouldn't do that, she said calmly as his hand instinctively went to his hip. Go ahead. Make my day. He froze. What followed wasn't a brawl. It was a clinical, terrifyingly efficient dismantling. A block, a wrist lock, a pivot that used his own momentum to slam him against his car. A knee strike to his thigh that made his leg buckle. He cried out in pain. Hurts, doesn't it? She said, her voice flat. She held him in a perfect compliance hold until the siren she had called wailed in the distance. As officers cuffed him, neighbors recorded everything on their phones. The system's attempt to quietly handle things had just ended very, very publicly. Ray Dunning's arrest, filmed by a dozen cell phones, became the new viral loop. In response, Jason and Izzy didn't just release a statement. They launched an organization, the Aegis Initiative. Its mission was simple. Use a network of lawyers, retired investigators, and digital forensic experts to expose patterns of abuse and protect the silenced. The public response was overwhelming. The system, however, pushed back hard. At 6 a.m. one morning, as Izzy left for a run, an unmarked sedan screeched to a halt. 3 plainclothes officers jumped out. Isabel Reyes, one grunted, flashing a badge. You're being detained for aggravated assault on a peace officer. They cuffed her, deliberately tightening them until she winced and shoved her into the car. By 7 a.m., Jason was on the phone, not with a lawyer, but with the U.S. Department of Civil Rights. By 8 a.m., he walked into the holding station flanked by 2 of his own attorneys and a federal agent. He handed the agent a flash drive containing footage of Izzy's arrest, her full credentials as a licensed security professional, and the legal right she had to perform a citizen's arrest on a fleeing felon. She's leaving with us, the agent announced. They had overplayed their hand. The next attack was digital. The Aegis Initiative's website was hit with a sophisticated cyber attack, and a smear campaign began. Doctored text messages appeared online, painting Izzy as an unstable vigilante. A headline screamed, Statham's rogue niece leading dangerous crusade. Izzy and Jason held a press conference the next day. They can attack our servers, Izzy said, her voice ringing with defiance. They can smear my name, but they can't erase a recording of a child screaming. Then came the final, chilling escalation. An encrypted email arrived containing a silent, 15-second video file. It was grainy drone footage shot from high above Leo's school. A blurry figure stood across the street, watching the children in the playground. The camera zoomed in slightly, lingering on Leo as he threw a basketball. The message was unmistakable. They weren't just coming for the adults anymore. Jason watched the video once, his face turning to stone. Get him out of there, he said to Izzy, his voice colder than she had ever heard it. Now! Within hours, Leo was moved to a secure, undisclosed location. The war had just become deeply personal. The line had been crossed. The trial of Ray Dunning was more than just a trial. It was a reckoning. The courtroom was a pressure cooker of media, activists, and the silent victims of other officers who now saw a sliver of hope. On one side sat the Statham family. Jason, a stoic pillar of controlled rage. Izzy, sharp and focused. And Leo, small in his suit, his arm in a brace, but his eyes clear and steady. Across from them, Ray Dunning looked deflated, a hollowed-out shell of the swaggering bully he once was. The prosecution's first exhibit was the audio recording. When that sickening pop echoed through the silent courtroom, a juror gasped and put a hand to her mouth. Dunning flinched as if he'd been struck. X-rays of Leo's shattered bones were displayed on a large screen, followed by testimony from the nurses and the EMT, who was ordered to abandon him. But the pivotal moment came when Leo took the stand. He spoke in a clear, unwavering voice. He described the heat, the demand for an ID he didn't have, and the laughter in the officer's voice. He twisted my arm. Leo said simply, and then I heard it break. For his final statement to the prosecutor, Leo didn't speak. He held up his tablet, displaying a drawing he had made. It showed a large, stylized Greek shield, an aegis. In the center of the shield was a single, wide-open eye, watchful and unflinching. Below it, he had written 3 words, "You see us." A ripple went through the gallery. Without a word or a cue, people began to stand, one by one, then in dozens, until the entire public section was on its feet in a silent, powerful tribute. The jury returned in under 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Outside the courthouse, a massive crowd had gathered. Jason stepped up to the waiting microphones, Izzy and Leo beside him. He didn't smile. Today, one man was held accountable, he said, his voice resonating with authority. But the system that created him is still in place. So our work is not done. He looked at Izzy, who held up a flash drive. This contains the drone footage of our child being targeted at his school. The federal investigation into that threat has already begun. A reporter shouted, "What happens now?" Jason looked down at Leo, who stood tall beside him. "Now," he said, "we build a world where no child's voice is ignored." Later that night, Leo looked up at Izzy. "Did we win?" he asked. "No, Leo," she said softly, brushing the hair from his forehead. "We just turned on the light. The real fight starts now. Thank you for watching." The Aegis Initiative is real, and it starts with voices like yours. Let us know in the comments what city needs to be seen next. Please, when you share your stories, comment with respect for all the real victims out there. And if you believe no one should be invisible, subscribe to the channel. Let's turn on the lights together.